The first step to fixing a crack in a wall is to make it bigger. You don't tape over it, and you don't smooth something on top. You take a scraper and you dig into the thing that you're trying to get rid of until it's wider and deeper and uglier than when you started. I learned this the annoying way. Last November, I started my first ever renovation, an old 70s weatherboard house, and the indoor walls came with about a dozen cracks. Putty straight on top, sanded flat, paint, done. Perfect for a few weeks, then one morning, the same crack reappears. In the same shape like the wall had a memory. For a while I couldn't answer the obvious question, what was I doing wrong? Then a tradie friend gave me the rule in one sentence. That repair only holds if you open the crack up first. And the day that landed, it stopped being about the wall itself, because it left me with a much less comfortable question. What else have I been painting over? First, let's talk about the wall itself. Step 1, and everything depends on it. Dig the crack out, follow it end to end and scrape until nothing loose is left. The crumbly plaster, the dust, the flakes of old paint. All of it needs to go, all of it comes out. If you do it properly, the wall briefly looks worse than anything you were originally upset about. Step 2. Clean inside the crack. Brush it out, get rid of the dust because filler doesn't stick to dust. It sticks to the wall. Then and only then, the filler goes in. You press it deep so it grips the solid edges you just exposed. You let it set and you sand it back. Skim a thinner second layer and sand again until your hand slides over the spots and find nothing. Then comes the primer, a sealing layer so the surface and the paint have something real to grip onto. Then comes the first coat of paint. Then comes the patience. 10 to 24 hours of drying. Then and only then, finally, the second coat. If you skip step 1, none of the rest matters. The putty grips dust instead of wall, holding it for a season, and the crack climbs back up through every layer you stacked on top of it. Nothing you build above the crack is more stable than the crack itself. Now the life lesson, the part that made me put the scraper down. What happens when something cracks in you? A betrayal, a failure, a loss, an old humiliation. One of those years you don't want to think about. And what do we reach for? A new routine, a new city, a new relationship, a gym program, a motivational playlist at 6 in the morning. We sand it flat, paint over it, and honestly for a few weeks it does feel fixed. From the outside it photographs beautifully, but with time and changing weather, the same crack reopens. In the same shape, different job, same resentment. Different relationship, same flinch. Paint itself was never the problem. We keep repainting surfaces we've never once opened up. And the strange part is that medicine and psychology both already run on the renovation rule. If you ever end up on a surgeon's table with a serious wound, the first thing they'll do before any repair is something called debridement. They scrape the dead tissue and debris out of your wound deliberately, even though it makes the wound bigger, because anything sealed in underneath feeds infection and blocks new tissue from growing. Medicine worked out what the tradies worked out. Nothing heals over debris. Psychology found the same rule from the other side. In the 80s, a psychologist named James Penbaker had students write about the most painful experiences of their lives. 15 minutes a day for 4 days, the deepest thoughts and feelings that they felt. In the short term, they felt worse, the exact same way a wall looks worse mid-repair. Although months later, they were measurably happier, visiting the doctor less than the students who had written about ordinary things. Opening the crack hurt first, then it healed. Suppression runs the same experiment in reverse, and it keeps failing. Push a memory down and study after study finds it doesn't leave. It moves in below the surface, and it starts steering you. So, the dig is settled, the crack is fixed. But what about the other layers? For a person, the dig and the clean out, you already know. It's the honest look at the old wound. What actually happened, what it cost, what it taught. In the revenge video, I call it reading the scar. process the memory, keep the lesson, and put the weight down. Same move. The primer layer is knowing what you value. Paint straight onto bare plaster and the wall just drinks it. It becomes patchy, thin, and weak. Because if you build a new life straight onto undefined values, you get the same finish. This layer took me the longest to see. So before the bright colors, one boring, honest question. What am I actually building on? What matters enough to me that I still choose it with nobody watching? That layer never shows up in photos, but it's doing half the work. Then comes the multiple coats of paint. First coat is to act. Pick the direction and move with conviction, imperfectly, today. Then comes the drying time, the patient bit. And I mean this as literally as the instruction label says. Leave it alone. A day, maybe even 2. Reflect on the action that you just took. Did it line up with the values you primed with? What did it teach you? Let it cure into the surface. Then comes the second coat, with the lesson folded in. Your refined action aligned with your values. Well, the good news is the cracks at my place haven't come back. Not because I found better paint, because this time the repair went as deep as the damage. The whole thing compresses into one line. A repair only holds to the depth you are willing to open. So dig first, fill second, and paint last. So I'll leave you with the exact same question that I had. Which crack have you been painting over? You don't have to tell me, tell yourself once, plainly. And in the comments below, tell me the layer you usually skip. The dig, the primer, or the drying time. See you soon. Bye.